Okay, this episode is titled P.O.V. It came out on October 17th, 1992. It was directed by Kevin Altieri, written by Mitch Bryan and Sean Catherine Derrick, featuring Kevin Conroy as Batman Bruce Wayne, Bob Hastings as Commissioner Gordon, Robert Costanza as Detective Harvey Bullock, Robbie Benson as Wilkes, John Considine as Hackle, Ingrid Olu as Montoya, Ron Perlman as Driller, and Marcelo Tubert as Carlos and Scarface.
Did you say one of the actors is called John Constantine?
Considine.
Oh, okay.
So we got some honorable mentions here. Robbie Benson as Wilkes, who's the rookie, is also the voice of Beast in all the Disney animated movies and TV shows of Beauty and the Beast and the video games as well. He's also been in episodes of Severance, Seinfeld, and Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and credited as a director for 6 episodes of Friends as well. So he's a director. Ron Perlman, now we all know him. Plus, he's obviously a character, a main character in the show. He's Clayface. So I'm going to save all his credits for when we get to the Clayface episode. But
he's such a good henchman in this.
He's great, isn't he? I really liked the Driller. It's such
is that his name in it? The Driller?
Yeah, the Driller. That's like a porno name, right? And then we've got Marcelo Tubert as Carlos and Scarface, who's another one of the goons. He had this like scar all over his face. He's the one that gets sprayed with pink paint. That, by the way, that utility belt farts when it sprays that pink paint. Did you hear the clear fart noise?
No, I didn't.
As he hit, because he's trying to use a screwdriver to get into Batman's utility belt, and then it goes and it just sprays pink paint, and I'm like, the utility belt just
little April Fool's joke from Alfred there.
It sharted, yeah. So Marcelo Tubert, who plays Scarface, Carlos, is also the French leader in G.I. Joe Retaliation movie, the one with The Rock in it. He's also Accost Jared in Star Trek The Next Generation, Mr. Alvarez in Star Trek Picard, and Dominic Magnolia in The Offer. So he's in The Offer at one point. He's in one episode. He was like one of the mafia bosses or something that they were dealing with.
Okay.
Plus, he's the voice of Ortiz in Batman Beyond and Sonar Man in Superman, the animated series.
Cool.
All right, I'm going to open up my utility belt for some fun facts. The structure of this episode is reminiscent of Rashomon, which is a movie from the 1950s, in which the audience is presented with 4 different and conflicting eyewitness accounts to a murder. The difference here, though, is that the flashback shows that Bullock is obviously lying, while in the film each witness's story is presented as truth, and the contradictions only come out when they are compared.
It's a classic trope that's always fun. I love any episode or any story when it's like, this is my version of the story. It's always good. It's been used in like every cartoon we've ever seen from a kid. I think there's a Rugrats episode that does this.
Yeah.
Like there's so much stuff that does. There's an issue of Spawn that does this as well, where these 3 guys, like he finds this woman's been murdered, and Spawn interviews these 3 guys and they all tell a different story, and it's really good. And yeah, it's just one of those tropes that I like.
This is the first episode where Batman does not appear out of costume, so it's the first time we don't see Bruce Wayne in the show so far. Originally, Montoya, Bullock, and Wilkes told their accounts of what happened in a coffee shop instead of police headquarters, and their careers weren't on the line. Now, this is really interesting. This episode also would have delved into Bullock's and Montoya's backstories, revealing that Bullock was once a high school sports star with an abusive father who drilled respect for the rules into him, but also explained to him...
Drilled? Is it the Driller?
Dun, dun, dun!
Is the Driller his dad?
No, that would have been amazing, though. But drilled respect into him, respecting the rules, which explains his intense dislike of Batman, which I think is a really cool parallel to pull from. And also, he told him not to be a team player, to be a star, which... it definitely comes into play in this episode, whilst Montoya would have been revealed to have grown up in Crime Alley as a reformed teenage punk who cleaned up her act and dedicated her life to helping people, and also had an encounter where she was called a liar, and she wasn't a liar, which again plays into this episode. Their backstories were axed by the censors, unfortunately, and is one of the main reasons why story editor Sean Catherine Derrick left the show in frustration. And you know what's so interesting? When Sean Catherine Derrick left, went straight over to Spider-Man, the animated series, and started writing for them. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So
to be fair, that's too much information for this episode.
It would have been, but there were moments where I'm like, oh, you could have cut that, and I wouldn't have mind seeing some of the flashbacks. But yeah, I suppose you would still need to elaborate a couple minutes for each story, and that would have overrun. So yeah, cutting it down makes
Did
sense.
he have a backstory for the rookie as well?
No, which the rookie was kind of pointless in this episode because either make him, I was thinking either make him corrupt, like he's on the take with the mob, or maybe
that would have been fun.
Or maybe he's the big boss man himself. Like, whoa, what a twist.
That's cool. I like that, bud.
Right? Yeah. Because otherwise he's just there and he's just a rookie. And and if you're not going to use him to make like a twist or a big part of the story, then it's much cooler to have Bullock and Montoya being the two stories that are conflicting.
But I know why he was there, because it's the rule of three. When you tell stories, usually you have to do beats of three. It's just something, if you guys don't know anything about writing, watch and pay attention to things you watch, because usually things that happen generally happens in a three. That's why there's a 3-act structure. It's just something that's pleasant to a viewing and reading experience. Trilogies, all that type of stuff. So that's why it had to be 3 people's different stories, because you do just 2 people's stories. It's like he said, she said, but the third really switches it up.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's cool.
That's my film school education paying.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, that was 4 years condensed down into 4 minutes. Okay, so Wilkes' account, when the rookie, he illustrates how effective Batman is at scaring and influencing these superstitious enemies. That is very reminiscent of Detective Arnold John Flass from the recount of his encounter with Batman in Batman Year One, which I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Because he's always like, he flew down and then like things shot out of his hands and stuff.
Even the coloring of Batman in that factory was very Batman Year One.
Yes, it was. You're absolutely right. It was like, yeah, it had that like grainy black and white kind of sheen, but also a bit brown tint to it as well.
It's because of the warm palette of the fire that was in there in the factory.
Right.
It changed Batman's iconic, cobalt blue that we know from the animated series into a dark, desaturated, warm brown. And that's the color that they used in Year One. So that's why I was like, oh.
And a lot of film noir, right? Like it had that very film noir.
It looks practically black and white because it's all got a hue over the top of it.
Yes. So the name of the boss is never revealed in the show, which got me to think it would have been really cool if, because I thought, like, who is this boss, right? I thought maybe at first it was going to be one of the mob bosses from Mask of the Phantasm, like a little shout out to like Chucky Saul or Sal Valestra or Buzz Bronski. Like, we see them later on in the movie.
Okay, Chuckles.
But then he had a monocle and looked like a young, distinguished gentleman, right?
Did he remind you a bit of the bad guy in Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh, a little bit.
Quiet and like the monocle, like all that type of stuff.
Do you know what I think they were going for? In my opinion, like he had a pencil-thin mustache and like all of this look and looked very distinguished. And I thought maybe they were going for a Sherlock Holmes Moriarty type character with him because it was all about detectives, this story. And he looked to be like the guy in the... Moriarty's the guy in the shadows, right? And he looks like that kind of distinguished gentleman you wouldn't expect to be a criminal, but he is. So I thought maybe that's where they were going.
Like I see Scarface in there. I see Maltese Falcon in this episode. Double Indemnity. Like it's just... This episode is pure noir.
Yeah, it is. It is pure noir. Okay. I imagine, I was thinking though, is in some cool twist of a story that the boss is actually an evil young Alfred doppelganger from like the past that's like traveled into the future.
What, and he's just Alfred's brother Flaufred or something like that.
Flaufred!
It's my brother, Flaufred.
Man, they really gave up after you, huh, Alfred?
You haven't met my dad, Dalfred.
And my mum, Malfred.
Malfred and Dalfred Pennyworth.
And then finally, the last few bits of facts here. The appearance of the Driller character is closely modelled on the character of Lothar in the movie The Rocketeer, a movie I still not seen, and I know a lot of people have nostalgia for.
I thought you loved that movie.
No, I've still not seen it. I've only seen like clips of it and scenes, but I've never watched the whole thing. Both Ron Perlman and Robbie Benson star in this episode, and both have also played the role of Beast in their versions of Beauty and the Beast in the past. Yes. So that's cool.
Yeah, with that crazy lion makeup, right?
Crazy lion makeup, yeah. And then obviously Robbie Benson is the voice of the Beast in all the Disney movies, like I said.
Ron Perlman's voice is so fucking good, right? Like having a really good glass of wine or something, you're like, oh yeah. Like, hear it, you're like, oh, it's rich and velvety. Oh, it's fine vintage.
You imagine if he just like, I would buy, like, if he read books on tape. Books on tape.
Yeah.
Who buys I mean, audio books.
If he read
Books
book
on
on tape.
tape. If he did audio books, I would listen to all of them. Imagine if it was like building, like, I don't know, furniture from IKEA, and he's like, okay, step one, take side A and slot it into side B. And I'd be like, oh,
I'll be your side B.
A final fact is Kevin Conroy doesn't have a single line until the last 6.5 minutes of this episode. In fact, he only speaks a total of 6 sentences. So
that makes him the Phantom in the Shadows, you know?
Exactly. So my question to you is, what did you think of this episode?
I thought it was great. I was not prepared to see a proper noir, like, you know, after the episodes we literally just watched, you know, the Underdwellers, which is just, you know, a Saturday morning cartoon. Like,
but we enjoyed it though.
I did enjoy it, but then you see an episode like this where you're like, oh, they're actually trying to make like something here, you know?
And do you feel like besides episode 1, this is the show, right? Like this is the show as we know it. Like it's getting there.
This to me was like, someone's a fan of Dick Tracy, right? Like,
yes,
this is what this episode was. So this to me was, and I liked how it was talking about Batman sort of still being like a shadow and stuff like that.
Yes,
this is like reading Batman comics from the 1930s. Like, it's the cover of the first ever Batman book is him beating up like these thugs from
that's episode. True. Yeah, that's a very good point. Now, I love this episode. I'm with you. I think it was great. I felt like, oh, we're getting into what I remember this show being, which is like
the vibe.
The vibe. It's almost been my favorite episode so far. It slightly lost. My favorite episode so far is still episode 1, and it's slightly lost to that because the third act let me down a bit. And like I said, it would have been great if they connected the rookie and made him like in on the tape.
I think that's a great idea.
That would have been cool, just to like bring it all around, you know, and that would have been a lot more fun. So the third act let me down because it just kind of was like Montoya finds them, Batman's there, they fight, and, you know, they catch the bad guy, they give each other the thumbs up, and then it's end of the episode.
Yeah, you're right. It does have a pretty weak ending, but overall, it's very, very good.
Yeah, I agree. And I love Batman being this mysterious figure that, you know, it only exists in these stories that they're telling. I think that's really cool. I think this episode was beautifully drawn.
Yes, it really was. Animation was fantastic. Gonna admit, I fancy the hell out of Montoya.
She's always busty.
No, not because of that. That's not why. Jesus Christ.
She busted.
No, it's because I've always had
an affinity.
Latino women, they do it for me, bud. I'll just put it right there.
That's. I mean, me too, bud. I'm with you. I get you. The music. What do you think of the music in this?
Great, amazing, really good.
Yeah, I agree. It's suspenseful. It's very film noir as well. Like it feels like detective, like sneaking around the alley. You know what I mean? Like it's got that feel to it.
The intro to the Batman the Animated Series that's what this like felt like. Yeah, I was promised what the advertisement was. Right, Batman fighting criminals in the dark.
Yeah, what you see on the cover is what you're going to get. Yeah, you're totally right. It feels like the Gotham that I remember from this show. Finally, so. I was thinking the opening scene, really great in this episode. Like, they kick it right off. They got Montoya in the car with the rookie, giving us a brief description, like, Bullock's supposed to meet us there. Thought that was really great. But did you notice that Montoya says Bullhawk instead of Bullock? She's like, we're supposed to meet Bullock there. And I'm like, no. Bullock? She says it like 3 times in the episode. And I'm like, it's Bullock. Someone just said Bullock. Bullhawk. Especially because someone says, like, half-cock when it comes to the docks later, and I'm like, Bullhawk, half-cock. I was like, why did all these words sound similar? I love that Bullock's car is full of fast food containers and like greasy paper napkins and a ton of cigarette butts in an ashtray. Like,
I didn't picture that. You can't show that in a cartoon.
I know, it's very brief, but seeing this in HD, I'm like, oh wow, I've never noticed that before. There is like 20 butts just like stamped out in an ashtray.
People smoke in Batman the Animated Series? We ever see that?
No, so I guess that's just implied without showing them, because censors, you know what I mean? Like, they would have been like, you can't show someone having a cigarette.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless they're like a real bad guy, but even then. Like, Penguin, does he even have like a... I don't think he does.
No, I don't think he has his classic cigarette on the long stick thing.
What is that called?
Oh, it does have a name, and I cannot remember it.
I love that cigarette and a long stick. Like, that's what Penguin. He's like, nah, get me my.
Where is my long stick that holds my cigarette? It has a name, but I forgot it.
Chop chop. The interrogation room in this episode is just one big empty void. Like, there's nothing in that room. And I was like, where in police headquarters is this? Like, do you think there's people in police headquarters who are like, hey, Lieutenant, after we finish this paperwork, want to go to that big empty void? It's just a big empty room in police headquarters that no one uses.
It's part of the intimidation tactic. You think they're going into a tiny room, but it's actually the world's biggest room. And they're standing in the middle of it. It's going to freak them out.
Maybe we'll see the walls this time. When Hackle, the interrogator, knocks Bullock's candy bar out of his hand, the sheer look of rage on Bullock's face cracked me up. He was just like, I was going to eat that.
Yeah. What do you think is his candy bar of choice? Or do you think that he's just a guy that walks in, sticks his mitt in like the candy section and then slams it on the checkout?
I see him as a Snickers man, and I'll tell you why. Okay. I can see him being like, it's got chocolate, it's got caramel or caramel, depending on where he's from. And then he's like, but it's got peanuts, and that's protein. And I'm
well, what's not to like?
Yeah, you nuts are gonna make my muscles big. I'm gonna have a Snickers.
Yeah, it's got good protein. We're doing really bad impersonations, both of us.
Yeah, we can't do Bullock at all.
We can't do Bullock. And we grew up in New Jersey. It's a devastation.
What do you think of the gangsters and the thieves?
I love all of them so much. They're all just like, like I said, I feel like I'm watching or reading an old Dick Tracy book or something like that.
Yeah. They all have they're like Bond villains too, right? There's slightly something wrong with them, or they've got like an interesting gadget, like the driller or the Scar, the particular Scar.
Huge. When Batman stands toe to toe with him, he's like standing in front of a mattress.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to describe him. Yeah, he's a big dude. He definitely is. I love that the Rookie thinks that Batman has all these special abilities and superhuman abilities when he's recounting the interaction he had with him. I think that's really cool.
Wouldn't you? Because I assume Superman's already established at this point. Like, you'd be like, oh, here's another guy that has amazing abilities.
Yeah, and of course he's a myth, right? You don't know if Batman's human or not. So yeah, that's really cool.
And I'm sure Batman's like, yeah, keep that shit that way. I'm not going to correct you. Like,
yeah,
I do have superpowers. Yep, yeah, definitely do.
I love when he's just like, and Batman just points at him and the guy goes down. Yeah. That's so cool. So I could see, as I was saying before, the flashback segues and where Bullock and Montoya's would be. Because the internal affairs guy, the interrogator, asked Bullock, like, why didn't you wait for your team? And the camera zooms in on him and he looks to be like recalling a memory as it's zooming in. And I was like, that's where they put it. And the same for Montoya. When she's called a liar, she looks down and she shakes her head and she looks to be remembering something as, again, the camera zooms in. So I was like, okay, that's where in the script they cut those scenes out. It would have been cool to see, but as you said, it probably would have overrun the episode.
Yeah.
When Batman pushes Montoya out of the way of the collapsing roof, right? He has like a good 3 seconds to jump out the way, but instead...
Yeah. No, mate, I'm going to take this shit.
Yeah. Do you think he thinks he's so strong and badass at this point that he's just like, even a collapsing, burning roof is not going to kill me?
Flaming, charred bits of wood just falling at his face. He's like, bring it! I'm Batman.
To be fair, it didn't kill him. He lived.
He did live. So you know what? He won that one.
He knew that, yeah. So if I was Hackle and the 3 cops were telling me 2 stories, with each story, you've got Bullock with one version, and then you've got the Rookie and Montoya with the other one. He was just like, I got 2 stories here and 3 people. Which one do I believe? And I'm like...
the 2-story one.
The 2-story one.
Yeah. This is a really tough one. 2 of the stories are the same. One's different.
Oh, this is a big case for me.
This is why they pay me the big bucks, because I got to make these tough decisions. I'm going to go with story number 4, the guy I haven't interviewed yet.
So Montoya discovers Batman is tied up in a warehouse, and when Batman's tied up, and I know it's his plan to escape and he's tricking them, he just wants to know where their boss is, which was pretty cool, I guess. But at one point, they must have found him unconscious. And wouldn't you unmask him the moment you found him unconscious?
Absolutely.
Be like, oh, look, it's unconscious Batman. Who is he? Oh, Bruce Wayne.
It's Miles Teller.
It's Miles Teller. Okay, I cracked up at this moment in the warehouse. there's a goon that comes running in and he faces down with Montoya and he holds his hands up in this like grabby way. Did you see this? And then for like 10 seconds, he just looks like he either wants to grab Montoya's boobies or like he's having a stroke or something, like, or it's a weird dance move. I'm like, what's going on there?
Maybe he's an eye plucker or something, right? Like the way he's standing, he's like, pluck some eyes, baby.
They call me the plucker.
Like, everyone else has a gimmick here. We got the Driller, we got Scarface. I'm plucker, baby. I'm eye plucker. I'm looking at two big, beautiful eyes. I'm gonna pluck right at you. Ah! I just made this one up. I don't have a thing, and I felt left out.
Is this working for you? Is this working for you?
Get plucked.
Get plucked. Batman grappling up to the crane with Montoya in his arms. It gave me real Batman 89 vibes.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of this whole episode had 89 vibes with the score, the darkness, and just the odes to like gangsters, right?
And them trying to break into the safe felt like Nicholson and his crew trying to break in the safe at Axis Chemicals. So I was expecting Batman to say to Montoya, like, how much do you weigh? But then I laughed because imagine if you and me were in that scenario and Batman's just like, how much do you weigh?
Batman, I'm pushing 300, bud. You're gonna have to take this one yourself. You're only 5'6".
If you have another grappling hook, I mean, we could do this. And Batman's like, my limit is 180.
Got any snacks in that utility belt, bud? Any Snickers bars?
I mean, I'll stay down here if you got a snack. How much do you weigh? And I take it so personally as well. I'd be like, I don't want to tell you, Batman. I don't know what you're going to do with that information. And then
he'd look you up and down and suss you out immediately. He's like 4'2", 800 pounds.
4'2", 800 pounds. Oh my God. Oh God.
It's like a fridge laying down.
What, the wide way?
Yeah. Like a fucking coffin walking around. 4'2", 800 pounds. Fucking hell.
Such an exaggeration. Holy crap. I think that would be so funny. And be like, Batman, I'm not going to make it, bud.
Just leave me, bud. Like, one of my limbs is 100 pounds. We're not going anywhere.
And then I think about Batman 89, where Vicky Vale goes about 108, I think. And I'm like, that's like deathly skinny for a woman of that height. I'm like, 108.
Hollywood weights make no sense.
That was crazy.
Like I said, me and my wife were watching a show. She was watching This Is Us, and there's a fat character in that. And she they say her weight at one point. It's like 220 pounds. I'm like, that is not correct. I was like, I was a skinny man when I was 220 pounds.
Yeah, it's always an exaggeration. It's like height, where they're like, Tom Cruise is 5'7". I'm like, that dude is 5'3" on a good day. Like 5'7", my ass.
Anyone like in Hollywood, like if someone weighs 200 pounds, they look like the whale, basically.
So back to the episode. Montoya dropping the load off of the crane into the dock and sinking the bad guys was fun. Especially the one guy holding on to like the last bit of wood, like felt very like cartoony Looney Tunes as he sunk in. Batman drives that forklift and the Danny Elfman theme plays when he does.
Also, Batman straight up again potentially murdering people.
Yeah,
he drives that forklift. Jumps off of it. The forklift, people are like just hanging out, right? If it was a few meters off, it would have come in and killed those two men like playing cards. But now these two men who are just playing cards, the water's filling up around them.
They're going to drown.
They've got to escape. And the ship is sinking, and Batman's like, that'll stop them. $8 million worth of damage to save $2 million of like stolen money. I watched that scene, and you know what I said? I was like, maybe vigilantism is not the answer to everything. Like I was like, I'm feeling a bit Bullock in this moment. Like that's fucked up.
I mean, especially like the fact that he sinks a cruise liner and destroys a dock.
Yeah.
Like that was so much damage. I'm like, buddy, that does not equal what these petty thieves have stolen in the grand scheme of things. But him on the forklift really made me laugh because it just, when it panned out, it was like, supposed to be a cool moment. I'm like, Batman does not look cool driving a forklift.
There's no way a forklift. He's going like 80 miles per hour now. Like, what is this, like the Fast and the Forklift or something like that? It's like They don't go that fast. They're like a golf cart. They go like what, 20 miles per hour tops?
When you hear your bat family. Wait, isn't that the Olive Garden phrase?
Yes. Welcome to Olive Garden. When you hear
your forklift.
Because you eat so much of their bottomless salads and breadsticks that you're going to be the size of a forklift.
But I did think with him on the forklift, like, I wonder if there's cosplayers out there that's how they feel. Like, you know, by weekday, I work in a warehouse stocking shelves, but on the weekends, I'm Batman.
Yeah, just driving like on Halloween, just like dressed as Batman using the forklift.
So at the end, we've got Gordon going real dark, like split personality Two-Face dark, because he grabs Hackle. And Hackle's got this nice purple suit on as well. I was like, oh, he looks good. And he just grabs him, and he's just like, grabs him by the collar, shakes him down, grabs the badges, and then just shoves him out the way like he's trash. Like, he proper shoves him out the way. I was like, that dude is flat on the floor after that. Then what's even more worrying is he turns to the cops after he's done that, and he's just smiling like nothing's happened. And he's like, here's your badges. Well done. He's happy and calm. I'm like, buddy, there's some real like polarizing emotions going on here. And then finally, at the end of this episode, Montoya hands the cops back their badges. She says it was a team effort. Bullock does begrudgingly agree. And that is the end of the episode. And yeah, I really dug this one. I felt like it was more the vibe, as we said. But that last act just kind of falls flat for me, where I'm like, we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, bud, do you know what the next episode is? Where we're not going to be quite there at all. But I do have a very, I have so much love for this episode. We are going to review The Forgotten, which, just to remind you, is
that...
Yes.
I love that episode. When he forgets who he is and he's working on a farm.
I love it.
I gotta eat.
I can't wait. And you know what? We're going to have to cast that guy.
Me.
Done. You've done it again, bud.
I've done it again.
Oh my God. That's
I think
amazing.
I play that guy pretty well, actually.
You would play that guy pretty well. Yeah, I can't wait to watch it. I'm really looking forward to it, especially the music in that episode. So much fun.